namaskar, adab, sat sri akal, kasa kai, kedo halai, kem cho. Once again, I am here, your loving host Abha Jadhav on your favorite YouTube talk show Spotlight with Abha in collaboration with Radio Brainride. Once upon a time, there was a king lion in the jungle. It was very ferocious in its appearance. Hey, you must be thinking why Abha has started storytelling in this interview or talk show. Well. Today, I am extremely excited to present an international storyteller, a playwriter, translator for theatre, straight from Glasgow, Scotland. She is none other than Wilma Stark. Welcome, Wilma, on my show.
Thank you very much. I feel very privileged to be here and once again communicate with India. I'll just do one small correction in that I'm not in Glasgow.
Okay.
It's very important for people in Scotland. Their territory is very important. And I live in a very small island off the west coast of Scotland. But it's not far from Glasgow and it's easily reached from Glasgow. It's only about maybe 50 miles from Glasgow, but quite a long journey because you have a train and then a boat, then a ferry. So it's accessible, but also you have your isolation, which is nice for a writer.
Great. Let me give you a brief introduction about Wilma Stark. Wilma G Stark is a writer, translator for theatre. She was in her former life a radiographer for 25 years. After diagnosis of a neuro-muscular condition, she went back to universities to study languages and completed her graduation, and parallel to this began writing. She has been involved in the script and development in a radio documentary, The Leningrad Stage and Leningrad Albums, which won the Best Radio Documentary at the Media Awards 2011. She is working within her own local community, Lokranza, Isle of Arran, to collect and collate tales from older residents and dramatize and perform these, film and record publish. She is presently researching for a new drama, The Big Lie, about war, using memoirs and artifacts belonging to her uncle who served and died in France in World War I, and the music song of Siren Doris Dolchen Decorum Est. Please excuse me if I have not pronounced it properly.
That's okay.
She is also at present writing a children's story for the Star Child charity. The TED Words on Mission incorporates a specially written work by singer-songwriter Jean Livingstone and will be published this year. She also teaches storytelling to adults and children. Normally, she have music, preferably with a musician, and that is the very interesting collaboration. Wilma, I'm totally flabbergasted with the project you have done.
Yeah, I know. I'm very lucky to have done them all, but certainly in my second life as a writer, I always sort of feel as a radiographer, that was my previous life. And obviously for a couple of years, I thought my life was over, but then I began to reincarnate, I suppose, in a sense. And it was amazing through writing, through studying language. It's just amazing the people you meet. And they're not all, but they're people who have that creative mind that I hadn't realised I had been starving for all my life. So I feel very lucky.
True. And hats off to you. A really commendable journey. Yes.
I do love my hats.
Yes. And you look pretty in those.
I love them, and the one I wore for the Storytelling Festival, I actually made myself, and it's the first time I've made, like a proper hat. So I was quite pleased with that. I do a lot of knitting and things like that because of my neuromuscular condition. My mind is always active, but
Great.
obviously my physical condition restricts physical activity. So when I'm lying resting, I'm never still. I'm usually knitting or translating or writing or communicating. It's a wondrous thing, technology, because you can speak to more than one person at a time all over the world. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yes. So, Wilma, when did you first start writing and telling stories?
Well, my friends would probably say that I've always done it, and my family, because as a child, I was the youngest of quite a big family. And as a child, I just lived in my own wee world, I think. And but it wasn't until I had retired from radiography, and as it says in your little blurb, I went back to university and I joined a writer's workshop, and I was reading out one of the things we had written for that week, and there was a total silence at the end, and I thought, oh gosh, they don't like it. But then they started to clap, this applause came. And the leader of the workshop said, do you realise, Wilma, that you tell stories, that you actually write stories for theatre, for drama, and your voice is a big part of it. So that was really when I admitted to myself I was a writer and a storyteller. But that's less than 20 years ago. So, yeah.
So, how was your experience of storytelling through this Zoom platform?
Oh gosh, I was quite apprehensive about it. I'm not apprehensive about the technology at all. I've done quite a lot of Zoom meetings and language classes and workshops and things like that. It didn't faze me at all. But when I go along to a storytelling session, usually, as I say, with a musician, and we've worked on, various stories, etc. It's a bit theatrical in a sense because I can't physically be theatrical. So that's why I use the music, etc., etc. So first of all, for the storytelling festival, I knew I wouldn't have my musician. I'm in isolation. I'm not allowed to have visitors in the house, etc., etc., because of the COVID restrictions at the moment. So I knew I was on my own. And secondly, when I go along, I never know exactly what I'm going to do. You will probably know this yourself. You assess the audience and they somehow send you messages. And within the first 5 minutes, I kind of know, oh, that's what I'm going to do. So I thought, how am I going to do this technically? I had no idea, and I was a wee bit apprehensive about it. But the Storytelling Festival, it was absolutely fabulous listening to the children with their 2-minute stories. And by the time of the third story, and I listened to everyone and I loved everyone, I knew exactly what I was going to tell. And those children drew me in, and I thought, right, I can do the same back. And when it came to my turn, and I presume you know, but the screen had all the children's faces on it, and I just concentrated on one wee girl, and I told the story to her. I feel myself quite emotional talking about it because it was a brand new but an absolutely amazing experience, and it filled me with a lot of confidence and inspiration. I think, those children were just wonderful. They reached out, and therefore I was able to reach back, and I thought it was a wonderful two-way communication. It was lovely.
Yes, I was there and I heard your story also on that day, and it was
Good,
really, really wonderful. I
good,
attended
good,
the session, yes.
good, good. I thought you were, but I couldn't remember everyone. It's one of
So,
those things, in fact, just back to asking about the Zoom thing, but I get this experience sometimes when I do live storytelling sessions, and sometimes I come away and I have absolutely no idea what I've said. I just know it was okay, but I don't know what I said or how I said it or whatever. And that's how I felt at the storytelling session. I knew I had told the story of Through the Rainbow, but I had no idea. And that to me usually means it was okay, you know. So I'm looking forward though to seeing the film of it to see if I was okay, but I think it went okay.
so you have just told that the story you have told over there, Through the Rainbow, in that
Yes.
Zoom room for the Story Nest International Children's Storytelling Festival, Kathastu. So, what was the inspiration behind that story?
Okay. I do sometimes collect old stories. I mean, anyone who's a writer or a listener, they love collecting stories, and I do. But that one was completely my story from start. And two things inspired me there. I was on holiday in Italy. I usually go to Italy a lot, but obviously in the last year, no visits to Italy except by Zoom or whatever. And I had been on holiday with my friend, who lives in the north of Italy amongst the Dolomite Mountains. They're very, very high mountains. And she lives in a village, which the village itself is 3,000 meters high. And then above that is another 4,000 or 5,000 meters. You know, the mountains are high all around. It's a mountain village, beautiful, absolutely beautiful, and very good for you physically. I always feel I'm 1,000 times better when I'm there, but that's beside the point. Anyway, she had, at that time, a little nephew who was only about 5 or 6. And he was a very sad wee boy, very, very sad. And I spoke to him a lot. And my friend said mainly it was because he had had a very chronic illness since he was born and had never really been outside much. And when I was blethering to him, I said, "What would you really love to do?" And he said, "I'd love to go up in a red helicopter up above the mountains and see the sun and look down on Pinzolo," which was his little village. So that, I took that with me, first of all. And then on the way to that holiday, I usually get the front seat in the plane because of my physical disability. And it just so happened I was sitting beside a relief pilot. And he was great to talk to. And he told me this about when you're up above the clouds, that if you're going through a rainbow, it's a circle. It's a complete circle. And it's a phenomena only above the clouds. And I just thought that was wonderful. And he said no matter how many times he sees it, he finds it wondrous and magical. So that was the two stories. So I first of all actually wrote that story in Italian for that little boy. And I made, of course, the little red helicopter came and spoke to him at the top of the tree, etc., and took him to where he could see the sun and through the rainbow. But when I went back home, I obviously, when I was translating it back into English, Scottish, I decided, because where I live, we have a lot of golden eagle. And I decided instead of the helicopter, I would have a golden eagle. And the golden eagle is the one that comes and takes young Ewan up and up through the rainbow to see the sun. And that's how the story came about. I'm hoping to have that illustrated and published as well. It's one of those that mean a lot to you, and it is the kind of thing because, well, as you know, quite a few people asked me at the festival if they could use the story, and I'm delighted for that because everyone who puts a voice to it will add something to it, and the people who are listening to it will add something to it, and that's the beauty of storytelling, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's it.
Great. So why can't we get one story from you?
Yes, I can.
Story.
I'll tell you a wee one, just in light of like, sort of the same. I have to bend down here and get my book up. Sorry, I forgot to put it back up on my knee. I might have to look at the pages now and again, but I'll try not to. But it's in the same kind of mantra, the same message, which was from Through the Rainbow. And I actually find that when I'm writing plays or poems, this seems to come through all the time. And I think it is my way of coping with life. And I think it always has been, this sort of, like you can see the sun anytime you like, you can go and visit the sun anytime you like inside your head. And I remember, I have to put glasses on now because I can't see. I remember as a child, as I say, I was the youngest of I was youngest of 5, and then the 2 parents, 7 people, in a very, very small house in those days, There was only 2 rooms and a tiny little scullery, it was called, where the cooker and the sink was. But the main living area, you ate in it, you sat in it. There was no television in those days, so it was just really sort of listening to the radio or telling stories. Or my father was great at telling stories. I used to encourage him to tell them, especially at bedtime, because it meant it held off going to bed. You keep him busy. But this room it's a wondrous room to remember, and I remember loving it at the time. There was a huge big fire, a big old range fire, and my mum cooked on it. It provided the heating for the room. I used to love, as a child, lying on the floor in front of it, feet up on the hearth, and my mum would open the door and you could see all the sparks, and to me that was the fairies dancing and going up the chimney. And of course there was a big table. There was always a table which served as for everything. My mum used, in those days we had no electricity, so it was gas lamps on the wall, or candles, or things. No electricity. But I remember when the electricity came, and it was a wondrous thing, but there was only one little socket up on the ceiling, and my mum would plug in the iron, and she loved that. That was a miraculous thing. So that's part of this little story too. So I remember that under that table, it was my hidey-hole. It was where I hid. It was my kingdom. It was my wee theatre, I suppose. And you could be anyone you wanted to be under that table. You could be anywhere you wanted to be, far, far away from reality. It was a great big table with 2 big sliding extensions that could make it even bigger. And there was always a big tablecloth right round and down to the floor. So when you were inside it, it was like a wee cave. Or it could be a castle. Or it could be a shop. It could be whatever you wanted it to be. and my mum would iron on top of the table. She would press the clothes and plug in the wee bayonet into the ceiling light and iron away, and I was underneath. Sometimes she forgot I was there, but I liked that. She liked the electricity, I think, because before she had the electric iron, she had two big heavy irons that sat on the big range fire, and they got hotter and hotter until she needed to use them. And she used to lift one off and spit on it, and it would tss, and that would let her know that it was warm enough to press the clothes. So she would press away on the clothes, and I would hear it above the ceiling of my wee cave. And she would just keep ironing till the ironing was all done. And she would take the felt off and the cover off, and then she would set the table for the dinner. Sometimes, as I say, they completely forgot about me. But I loved that, because I was in my world. Nobody could control that world but me. I could be a fairy, I could be a princess, I could be the most amazing person in the whole world. And then suddenly, a big monster would come to the mouth of my cave. Come on, you, it's time for bed. It was my mum. I used to think that was really silly. Taking me out of there where I was curled up, fast asleep, just to go to another bed 6 feet away and take off all my lovely warm clothes, put on jammies. But then I'd get pushed into the bed. But as I told you, the bed was set into the wall with a big curtain across it. So really, you see, that was me inside another wee cave. And I could be anywhere I wanted to be and anyone I wanted to be. Oh, I remember that.
Wow. I was totally into the story, and I was imagining myself over there. I was
Good.
totally into that story completely.
Good.
Yes, I love stories, and when I was, teaching in school, when I was teacher, I used to, weave my subject into the form of stories, and used to teach students, and they used to sit like this and hear it. The ma'am is telling some story, but actually I was covering the subject. So it was totally wonderful, Velma. Fantastic story. Fantastic story. So actually, I really wish to keep listening some more stories from you, because really it is wonderful to listen you. But actually, yeah.
I could do a wee poem if you'd like.
Please.
Obviously don't want to do great big long stories, but a wee poem would be nice. Most people, as I say, I have it here. Hopefully, again, have to put the glasses on. I'm actually waiting, and this is a wee story for me. It's not really. I'm quite okay about it, but because of COVID, again, there are long waiting lists in the hospital, etc. And I've been waiting for an operation on my eyes, and it'll be marvellous. I'm not the least bit frightened about it, but obviously now the waiting list's going to be years. So, however, I'll just go on with it. So here you go. This is just a little poem, and I will have to look at the words here because I've not long written it, but I believe in fairies, and you've got to believe in fairies or you don't see them. I believe in dragons. I love dragons. And a friend who's a wonderful artist had asked me to write a poem about a dragon. So it always kind of comes off left field for me. I never kind of do the obvious, once upon a time there was a dragon, but that's fine. Anyway, this is my little dragon poem. Oh, I love a dragon, me, to walk beside and come for tea. Their green and very thick skin, you see, is rather warm and bubbly. Their fiery breath bursts out full throttle. I sometimes have to grab a bottle of cold, wet water from the burn and put the fires out, you see, when they get mad, though not with me. They talk all kind of words, you know, not just fiery blasts to blow. They jabber in English and Gaelic, of course, and even dots and dashes like Morse. They stutter and mutter with other weird words. And if you're not tuned in, it might sound absurd. You just have to love them and not be afeard. Respect them, believe them, and don't pull their beard. So next time you meet one, or see one or two, all knobbly and green and staring at you, be friendly and kind and love them like me. And they'll tell you grand stories, and they might come to tea. They can boil up your kettle, thou knows, with one fiery blast from right out their nose. They can toast some muffins in a trice without having to switch on an electric device. Yes, dragons are knobbly and fearsome and green. They don't like big sticks being prodded between their eyes and their nostrils. It might make them mad. And poking their bums just makes them sad. Just 'cause they're different, you've got no excuse to poke them and prod them and hurl abuse. It's just not that hard to love dragons like me and ask them along to your house for tea.
Simply superb, simply superb. I thoroughly enjoyed this poem, and of course now I started loving the dragons.
Good.
Yes, and I'm 100% sure that my listeners who are listening this program will definitely enjoy your story and the poem both, and they will definitely ask me again to bring you in spotlight for some more stories.
Thank you. I've enjoyed every minute of it. And my dog has lain sound asleep the whole time. She likes that voice, the storytelling voice, but sometimes she talks through it. But today she's just out sound asleep, so it probably worked.
Great. So, Wilma, thank you very much for giving your valuable time. But friends, before we end up this episode, please do subscribe my YouTube channel to watch some more interesting interviews and success stories of interesting people all over the globe. And we will be coming with some more storytellers. So do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you like the video, please don't forget to comment. And yes, don't forget to hit the bell button near the subscribe one. So friends, you can hear this program on Radio Brain Rhyme, for which you have to download Radio Brain Rhyme application from your Google Play Store. And you can hear this program in more than 20 countries. So with the promise that I'll come again with some more interesting personalities, please give us leave This time, thank you. Thank you, Wilma, once again for giving your time.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Take care.
Bye.